Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we have some major news coming out of Belarus that could have serious implications for the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. This announcement has caught a lot of analysts by surprise, and it may signal a new phase in the conflict that has already reshaped global geopolitics. We're going to break down exactly what happened, why it matters, and what this could mean moving forward. So let's get into it. Belarus has been closely tied to Russia since the start of the war, often allowing its territory to be used as a staging ground for Russian troops. But this latest announcement is different. The Belarusian government has officially stated that it will deepen its military cooperation with Russia and begin joint military operations near its border with Ukraine. This isn't just training exercises or troop rotations. This is being described as an integrated defense posture that could potentially involve Belarusian forces in combat operations if Russia requests it. This is significant because Belarus has so far been cautious about directly entering the war. It has allowed Russia to use its land and airspace, but its own troops have not been officially involved in fighting. The new statement indicates that Belarus might be willing to cross that line. For Ukraine, this raises concerns about a possible second front opening up in the north, which would force Kiev to divert resources from the east and south, where most of the heavy fighting is happening. The timing of this announcement is also critical. Russia has been under pressure in several sectors of the front line and has been seeking ways to stretch Ukraine's defenses. If Belarus were to commit its forces, even in a limited way, it could create significant headaches for Ukrainian planners. Military experts say this could mean anything from additional missile launches from Belarusian territory to the movement of Belarusian troops toward the border to threaten an incursion. Even if no attack comes, just the threat could force Ukraine to keep troops stationed near the Belarusian border. Another part of the announcement that has drawn attention is Belarus' claim that it is doing this to counter NATO aggression. This has been a consistent talking point from both Minsk and Moscow, but it seems designed to justify any future action by portraying it as defensive rather than offensive. Western governments have already condemned the move, calling it an escalation and warning Belarus of further sanctions if it actively participates in the war. There's also a nuclear dimension to this story. Belarus confirmed that it has completed preparations to host Russian tactical nuclear weapons on its soil. This was announced earlier in the year, but now officials are saying the weapons are operational and ready for deployment. This raises the stakes considerably because it means that any direct attack on Belarus could be treated by Moscow as a justification for using nuclear weapons in retaliation. It also gives Russia more options for threatening NATO members in the region like Poland and Lithuania. From a political perspective, this announcement could also be about domestic control. President Alexander Lukashenko has faced protests and opposition for years, and his alliance with Russia has kept him in power. By tying Belarus' future even more closely to Russia's war effort, he may be ensuring continued support from Moscow. But this could also make Belarus more of a target for Western economic pressure and cyber operations, as well as possible covert support for opposition movements inside the country. Ukraine's response has been measured but firm. Officials in Kiev say they are monitoring the situation closely and have plans in place in case of any cross-border attack. They have also called on Western allies to increase surveillance and intelligence sharing along the Belarusian frontier to detect any buildup of troops early. This could lead to more NATO reconnaissance flights in the region and possibly additional deployments of air defense systems to neighboring countries like Poland. The reaction from Moscow was unsurprisingly positive. Russian officials praised Belarus for standing with them and said that the two countries' cooperation is now at an unprecedented level. Some Russian commentators have even suggested that Belarus could play a bigger role in logistics and supply for Russian forces, which would free up more Russian troops for frontline operations. However, it's still unclear whether Belarusian soldiers will actually cross into Ukraine. Some experts believe this announcement might be more about psychological warfare than preparing for a real offensive. By creating uncertainty, Russia and Belarus can force Ukraine to spend resources guarding against an attack that may never come. This is a classic strategy of stretching the opponent's defenses and wearing them down over time. At the same time, the risk of miscalculation is rising. If Ukrainian forces detect what they believe to be preparations for an invasion from Belarus, they might launch preemptive strikes. That could quickly escalate the situation and draw Belarus fully into the conflict, something that could have far-reaching consequences for the entire region. Western countries will now be watching Belarus very closely. Sanctions are already in place against its leadership, but there may be calls for even harsher measures, including restrictions on trade, banking, and travel. NATO members bordering Belarus could also boost their troop presence and conduct more military drills as a show of force. All of this could increase tensions further and make the region even more volatile. This announcement is a reminder that the war in Ukraine is not just a local conflict. It's a geopolitical struggle with many players and moving parts. Belarus' decision to deepen its involvement shows how alliances and partnerships can shift the balance of power. It also shows how quickly the situation can escalate, potentially bringing more countries into the fighting, directly or indirectly. For ordinary people in Belarus, this could mean more military mobilization, more restrictions, and a greater sense of uncertainty. For people in Ukraine, it means yet another threat on top of everything else they are facing. And for the wider world, it means the conflict is far from over and may be entering a new and even more dangerous phase. As always, we'll be keeping a close eye on developments and bringing you updates as soon as we have them. This is a fast-moving story, and the next few weeks could be crucial in determining whether this is just a political maneuver or the start of a wider war involving Belarus directly. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to stay tuned because we will continue to track this story and others related to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Things are changing by the day, and understanding the bigger picture is more important than ever. What do you think about Belarus' announcement? Is this just posturing, or do you think we are about to see a major new front in the war? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to keep up with the latest developments.